Recently, I've been doing some research into the world of esports, just checking things out, and I discovered an interesting controversy amongst the fighting game community. Ironically, there's a big fight over the concept of using a joystick system versus the Hitbox. If you're unfamiliar with the Hitbox, it's a device that people are using to kind of get an advantage in certain games. Instead of a typical old school arcade joystick, you have buttons. And some people say it's fantastic, it's great, while others say it's cheating. So recently on a stream, I sat down with a couple of friends of mine to talk about this very topic, to see, is this cheating, is this not cheating, and how would we ourselves feel about going into a game and playing with this type of system or playing against people who had it. What you guys are about to watch is that very stream where my friends and I talked about this topic. And hey, so we have Drew in the chat, and Drew is one of the hosts of a great podcast called the Cel Cast. Let me see if I can pull up the Cel Cast on my screen. Drew, tell the crowd a little bit about yourself.
I am 36. I like long walks on the beach.
It works.
I'm teasing. I am teasing. I do co-host a podcast with my buddy Jacob called the Cel Cast. We review animated movies and television shows. And and pretty much just hang out and have fun.
Right. I'm pulling up your podcast right now on my screen. Share the screen. So this is their podcast, the Cel Cast, or the Cel Cast with one L.
Yes, indeed.
Podbean. And I like how you preface that every time. You're like, 1L.
You would not believe how many times when we were doing our initial Google searching, how many weird things came up. So that's why we specify.
That's fine. Bobo said he'd post a link, but he can't do it because I've banned a link sharing. So what I love about y'all's podcast is, if I can show it properly on my screen here, is Jacob does all the art for you guys. Like he does
Jacob
all this custom art.
Jacob does draw the art. I do the layout for all that.
Mm-hmm.
He has been lately combining our movies with whatever TV show we are reviewing.
Nice.
That's why the Star Trek Lower Decks guys are getting eaten by Audrey too, it looks like.
It's pretty cool. I love it. I really do. So let me ask something, Drew. In the last however long you guys been doing it, what's been your favorite episode?
Oh, favorite episode. That's a good question.
I think we lost him.
No, I'm still here.
Okay, you just paused for a long second.
I just can't. I'm just trying to think. What was the favorite episode that we recorded?
Right.
There's so many. It's hard to keep up with. I can tell you that the one we did on Spirited Away recently blew up for no apparent reason.
Right.
Howl's Moving Castle's doing not quite as good, but it is a little higher than expected. So, well, if you want to hear me get really angry,
oh Lord,
go listen to the episode we did on Leo the Lion. We did a whole month where we were kind of aping the bottom shelf a little bit,
right?
Called Bad Movie Month.
Yeah.
For the most part, with movies, I tend to be very positive.
Yeah.
Because even when something is absolute garbage, for the most part, there's usually something to brag about, something to be happy with, some silver lining. There was no silver lining to Leo the Lion.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. All right, so that's Drew, and again, a great podcast. Celeste was actually just on the show talking about Howl's Moving Castle, which she absolutely loves that movie, and she was so excited to be on with you guys. And it was her and John Harju, actually, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And
John was almost a last-minute addition, but we enjoyed having him there.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Ashley Ruiz in the chat, she says, getting angry during a podcast? My husband knows nothing of that. No, nothing at all, Ashley.
No, nothing at all.
No, Francisco is the picture of keeping himself under control at all times.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Bob says, I remember that review, speaking about Leo the Lion. So with these Culture Box conversations we have, we were going to be talking about different things happening in geek culture, things happening in the realm of storytelling and all that kind of stuff. And a couple different topics have come up over us talking about it. But since this isn't an official one, I want to bring up something, Drew. I want to get your opinion on it. And I'm going to ask John Fruitiger, you might be a good person to jump into. If you want to jump into our Discord, join the voice chat. Because John has a whole gaming stuff he does too. Are you familiar with the Hitbox apparatus that championship gamers are possibly looking to switch to?
Oh, the Hitbox?
Yeah.
I remember seeing it come up when I was looking at a bunch of Smash Brothers stuff back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But not following competitive fighting games.
Right.
And in general, I haven't. I'll be honest.
Right. I gotcha.
I play games for fun, not to actually be good.
I'm kind of in the same boat. So here's the thing about the Hitbox, Drew. It's become controversial. And for those people who are curious what I'm talking about, let me go over to my screen share. This is the Hitboxes I have here on screen, at least one of them. This is the PS4 PC Hitbox. Running for about, just a cool $300. Not a big deal. Mm-hmm. The idea is you get rid of the joystick. So for years, the thing that championship, competitive, fighting game players were about were like, get rid of this, get rid of the controllers, the D-pads, and get an old school arcade system with a stick.
Yeah.
This gets rid of all that. It's all buttons. And they come in various forms. That's the PS4 one. This is the Smash Box. Which
Smash Box is the one I'd heard of.
Yeah, it's Smash Box is the all-button arcade controller designed to push the limits of what can be done with an analog controller and provide greater accessibility to all players. Tournament legal at the Smash World Tour, Genesis, CEO, EVO, Smash Bros. Con, which they just canceled, by the way, and the Big House. Which are all massive things. And of course it's styled off of the stuff you would need to do play Smash Bros. Right. And then they have this one called Cross Up, which I've never heard of. It has actual stick to it. That's interesting. Apparently it's supposed to be a bit more for controllers. I don't know. But anyways, it's become controversial in the gaming world from my understanding. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. And the reason why it's controversial is the idea is that it's so much faster to input commands into these buttons than it is to roll a joystick in a tournament.
So as somebody who is really bad at making combos in most fighting games when I've played, I can see the advantage why someone would want to play with this, because you would probably not ever have to worry about moving that stick too far one direction or another, trying to doing those combos.
Sure.
Especially since you've got to get these frame perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I get why this would be controversial. I guess it's almost akin to like steroids in baseball kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But whether or not they should do it, I have no opinion.
Right. I gotcha. I see that John has joined the Discord. John, how you doing, buddy?
Yes, I have. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear. John is he's kind of the CEO, Grandmaster, Funk Daddy of Random Encounters Gaming. John, what is Random Encounters Gaming for the crowd listening right now?
Mostly we are a game streaming group. The group right now is just me and one other person who's sometimes there.
Right.
But yeah, we stream on Twitch. We have the multicast through Streamlabs, so we stream on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook.
Let's go. Very cool.
You can catch us on all three of those. So
I dig it. Now, John, I got a question for you, man. What are your thoughts about this Hitbox situation and people's thoughts of it? It's a cheating device.
I can understand why they say that. However, it's that argument of PC versus console when they go into competitions. It was a big ordeal whenever they came out with Overwatch. People can fine tune the PCs and get their FPS and their trigger time so much
Right.
faster than you can do with a console. And I feel it's that same argument all over again.
Yeah.
You're getting the single taps to do the directions, kind of like WASD when you're playing on a PC.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting that single tap, but at the same time, have you seen the Xbox accessibility controller?
I have not. I'm gonna look it up while you talk about it.
Yeah, look that up. It's similar, but not quite.
Oh yeah. I've heard about this. I've never gotten into it, but I've heard about this. I'm trying to load the page.
Something like this, while different, could possibly open up the door for other players who aren't really able to use the stick that well.
I can see that. Yeah, I remember hearing about this.
So what I would say is, and I mean, with just a little bit of practice, if not right away, it's pretty intuitive with that hitbox how you can use the controllers again, just like a D-pad.
Right.
I think if they're going to use that in the games, they need to make that standard controller for everybody. You know, it's. I don't think it's so much about using the hitbox. If they want to use it, fine.
Right.
I think it's more about making sure people are using the same equipment, so no one particular person has that advantage.
Well, then here's some of the argumentations against using the hitbox. And first, I was talking with Celeste about this. She had kind of the same argument as just standardize it. But then you have the fact that there's some players that they got good using just a D-pad. Like there's still some cats that are very competitive using an old school D-pad, a custom built Super Nintendo D-pad or whatever, But one of the arguments against this particular thing is, and I forgot the technical terms, and so those who are listening, if you're a technical person, you may be able to add in some advice. But there's a term called basically cleaning. And you're cleaning the way the commands clear out of the game system. There's a comment in the chat. Let me read this real quick. Appleton says hitbox is a whole other term for gaming. So why would they choose that for the name of the product? Probably Appleton, it's because that's what you're aiming to hit is the hitbox, and so this is the device for that. If I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so one of the with the hitbox, you have to and there's other versions of it. It's not just this one brand. And Hitbox, if you want to sponsor us, hit us up. But with it is the conversation about so let's say that when you're gaming, you hit low punch, high punch at the exact same time. Now, some games that's a combo; it does something specific. But when it's two different combos, two different things, the game has to decide what it wants to do with the double entry that comes in at the same time. Does it do option A, high punch, option B, a low punch, or is it going to do some sort of weird other thing, or is it going to just go to a neutral stance? So games have to figure that out. So from what I understand is that Hitbox and other ones, you have to do a cleaning system where it has to decide what it's going to do. But what was happening was, and I think it's Zangief, one of the ones that grabs you and does like a corkscrew. When you do the move, it's super powerful. However, it leaves him open for attack. So if you dodge it, he's wide open, so you can take him out. With the hitbox, what you had happening was people could do the move that is super powerful and block at the same time. So there was no opening for you to take out the opponent. And this is where they get into that conversation. It's not just a matter of the rapidness, but the fact that you could technically type in two commands at the same time to almost become invulnerable. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, that's not really a controller issue so much as it is a programming issue with the game itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those inputs are programmed into the game as far as when they do what, how they choose what functions happen. And so if they're able to hit them fast enough on the controller to, cause that to happen, that's more of an exploit with the game itself than through the controller.
Right. But at the same time, it's the controller itself is allowing you to use that exploit, and that's the problem that people are running into. A normal controller that you have with so like again going back to the Hitbox, this PC, the PS4 PC one, the red buttons are your up, down, left, right, basically. You can do the command to attack, but hold the back button at the same time to block. So you can't do that with a joystick. You can't do the command attack and hold the back button at the exact same time. Now, Dale's in the chat. He says, aren't you guys, aren't these things you're talking about like codes or secret levels that would exist in the games? He goes, I used to have books and magazines that would share these codes and make, I'm sorry, and I lost the place. Magazines that would share these codes and make Mario go to a negative world, or use President Clinton to play basketball in NBA Jam. What a game. Not quite, Dale. We're not talking about typing in cheat codes. We're talking about typing in like valid codes that are not supposed to be done. So like I said, in the case of this, our scenario here, you could do the commands to do a powerful attack and hold the back button, which is how you block in Street Fighter, at the same time. So does that give it an unfair advantage to be able to do that?
Well, and I mean, it does give that an unfair advantage because you're using that exploit.
Mm-hmm.
However, he is right. It is the same thing, more or less.
Okay.
Those secret levels, those cheat codes, they're exploits that are coded into the game, usually for testers, sometimes as Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
This is something else.
Sometimes as legitimate glitches in the case of the negative world.
True.
Right. And this is the same thing. It's something that's programmed into the game, just not something that they came out with intentionally. It's just how the mapping is working.
Right. Okay.
And again, it's an exploit. That term is there for a reason. They can exploit it to gain this advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something brought out with this controller. Then, as a tournament system, if they use it, then that is promoting the exploit. They can't be upset if people are using that because that's, they're allowing that to be in play.
Right.
Yeah. If the tournament's allowing the hitbox to be used, then that's on the fault of the tournament.
Right.
Because it's just like when they have banned characters or banned stages, it's up to the tournament to place those rules into effect.
Well, that's the thing, is that some major tournaments are starting to ban it. And again, I'm basing some stuff off just a few videos I've watched recently on this conversation. Simply because I'm starting to look into a little bit more of the esports stuff just so I can understand the world of it. But it's my understanding, unless they've changed it, Capcom has banned Hitbox in their world tournament because of these exploits.
That would make sense because of that exploit alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it being Capcom, they're going to do anything to make sure you're playing the game they intended it to be played.
That's true. That's true.
Right. Capcom...
They're not intending you to play that on a cheap, exploity heavy arcade stick.
Right.
Without the stick.
Yeah. Well, they are going to take publicity anywhere they can get it. They're not going to stop people from using it in personal play.
Right.
Capcom is one of the people who are very big with the tournament scene. So when it comes to legitimacy and avoiding any sort of scandal or issue like that, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they would ban that.
Yeah, totally. So with that in mind, with the banning stuff, again, that's where because there's a lot of top players, apparently, they're like, we love this thing. We think this is great. However, some people point out the fact that there are certain commands that you cannot pull off with this. There's ways that you have to kind of twist and roll the joystick in older Street Fighter games and some older fighting games that you cannot pull off with the hitbox. So the conversation is, would that make the hitbox more of an even ground? The fact that it's far more difficult to do certain things, or does its ability to do multiple commands at the same time act as a buffer for them?
Personally, I would not say that that gives it any sort of even ground. Yeah, you might take away the Shoryuken, but if you just spam the Hadouken instead,
Right.
you're still getting those moves off, and you're still getting them off at an advanced pace.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you remove 2 or 3 moves off the combo list, you still have all the others you can use as reliable and potentially faster combinations.
So with that being the case, should it still be remain legal in tournament play, or is it one of those things that it's got to be a case by case situation?
I think it would have to be case by case scenario based on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the games have the exploit that the singular Street Fighter game does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because that's in Street Fighter doesn't mean that that's in Tekken or Dead or Alive.
Right.
So I think it's definitely going to be on a game by game basis.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an exploit for it, because it brings in a vulnerability in Street Fighter, am I all for them banning it from Street Fighter? Yes.
Mm.
I think it should be, evaluated by each system on, okay, does this work? Does it not work? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages?
Right.
Again, on a personal level, if you want to use it, go for it. I'm all for that. If you want to use it in casual play, it sounds like a really great system.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for when it comes to tournaments, it's definitely got to be a game by game scenario.
Yeah, definitely. Apple Dance is kind of an agreement with you. She says, I feel it should depend on the game. Drew, what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, yeah, I think it would have to be on a game per game basis for the most part, and it should be up to the tournament organizers to determine if they're going to allow this or not. Of course, for your own play, do whatever you want. I don't care.
Sure.
But because I mean, I'm going to lose whether you're playing with a controller or a hitbox anyway online. But yeah, I mean, I guess what it's going to eventually come down to is what's more entertaining to watch than playing on a controller, a regular fight stick, or this hitbox.
Right.
And
yeah, that's a good question.
I think that was actually one of the big things. I remember when they came out with the Marvels versus Capcom 3, because Marvel versus Capcom, and particularly Marvel versus Capcom 2, was a huge game, a favorite among fighting fans.
Oh yeah, it was massive. In fact, it's one of the hardest games to find right now, is my understanding.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can get it digitally in some places, but yeah, it's no one gives that one up. Everyone loves it. But when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, it breaks the system. If you get off the combo just right, then you just win the game.
Oh, wow.
So for something like this in that scenario, I think it really just kind of ruins the game. It's if you can just input a code and then you do your power move and it just obliterates them in one turn, it's something like that I don't consider fun.
Right.
But if it were to be used for something like Dead or Alive, where it can ramp up the pace of the game, while at the same time, there are no combos that just obliterate your opponent in that game. It's a chip system. And if you get people who can defend and counter and play correctly, that game is a tough game to master.
Right.
Then you get some very exciting tournaments. And so if there's no exploits in it, if there's nothing like that in that system, then go for it.
Yeah. I get that. Dale wants to know if either one of you guys are planning to be in a tournament, a video game tournament in Point.
No.
I avoid PvP like the plague. I have done like Mario Kart tournaments back in the day. Double Dash was a big one, but no, for the most part, I tend to avoid tournaments and PvP situations.
Right.
The closest I'll get to that is when Games Done Quick comes up. I usually will watch a couple of those speed runs, but
Right.
that's as close as I get.
I get that. I'll do some like in-house tournaments of like Smash Bros with some friends every so often. I have been in a Fortnite tournament once. I was with I was over at God Squad Church. They were doing their big event, their SquadCon, which is this big gathering where everybody literally from across the world comes to hang out, and they do like 3 days of events. And man, they had cats from Germany, Canada, Australia coming to be part of it, and I had the opportunity to do a little seminar while I was there. But I took part in a tournament, a Fortnite with them, and they're like, "Okay, well, we need your stats." I was like, "My stats are 0." Like, no, like what's your average? I'm like 0. They're like, oh. So they teamed me up with this kid who also his stats were I think he had like 1. So and if you're familiar with tournament setup, it's normally last place paired up against first place favorite for the first round. And that's exactly what happened. So it was me and this little dude, and we failed gloriously against these dudes. And I knew it was a problem when this 13-year-old sat down and he's looking at the computer and he's filling the keyboard, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, I need my box." And the dad walks away and comes out with a suitcase. It looked like a mafia deal going down. He opens the suitcase. I thought light and like music was coming out. I was like, oh, as this kid pulled out this tiny keyboard and plugged it in. And he's like, yes, this will work. I'm like, what? This will work? Who are you? Is this like a mafia hit or something going on? And this kid and his partner devastated us. I told the little dude, I was like, look, man, our goal today is get one shot off. Just hit him once. Doesn't have to kill him. That is our goal. And he and I did our best to make it. And yeah, it was rough.
You have to fail spectacularly is the way to do it.
That's it, man. Go big or go home. That's what I say. So awesome. Well, for those who are watching in the chat, those who maybe watched it, because I might pull this video later for our feed on YouTube. Love to get your thoughts on this whole conversation, this topic. John and Drew, any last thoughts on the topic of the hitbox?
I don't.
I would say I think we pretty well covered it there.
Yeah.
Tournaments, definitely have to have rules. So
yeah,
whatever works best for that. But in your spare time, you do you.
Yeah, totally. Well, guys, I want to encourage you guys to check out culturebox.media. That is the website for everybody that's part of the network. And you guys see it on the website. We have a post up here about the best September, and we have all the shows that are part of it: the Cel Cast, Geek Devotions, Retro Rewind, Stunning and Brave, Untold Podcast. Drew, where can people get a hold of you, bud?
You can follow the Cel Cast podcast, as you said earlier, the celcast.media. You can also check out our Facebook page, Cel Cast. I think it's Cel Cast podcast. Either way, or join our Facebook group, the Cel Nation, and hang out there.
Yeah, cool. And John, how can people get a hold of you and Random Encounters?
You can find us at Random Encounters here on Twitch. You can find us at Random Encounters on Facebook. You can find us at Random Encounters Team on YouTube. Again, we've got more or less the same content rolling on all 3 platforms at the moment.
Yeah.
It is just random variety streaming. There are no set podcasts or anything like that.
Right.
Something we've talked about getting into, but just don't have the time to actually schedule something like that. So
I completely understand that, sir.
Yeah, I do as well.
Well, hey guys, I'm Dallas with Geek Devotions. So if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, hey, welcome to Geek Devotions. We are the show from Devoted Geeks. We're devoted to letting people know they're loved, and we normally do that through Friday episodes on YouTube. We do Tuesday night video streams, live streams. That's a word. Where we call it the Play and Pray, where we'll read some scriptures, we'll hang out, we'll talk, we'll play some video games. Our big rule is that, hey, if you need to talk, you need prayer, we'll stop our games, because while we love our games, we love you more. So I'm going to end this video the way I do everything else. Stay devoted, peace, and love.
Love and peace.
All right, I've hit the marker.
Burning finger.
That too.
That's good. That's so
I need to
good.
finish watching that.